In Paris, Sam goes to a party hosted by his former girlfriend, but he isn't there to enjoy himself, he just wants to reclaim his old tapes. She asks him to wait, since she's busy with the guests, leaving Sam to sit around feeling uncomfortable. Growing impatient, Sam insists that she tell him where his belongings are so he can retrieve them himself. She directs him to an office, suggesting he wait there so they can talk later. Ignoring the drunken party-goers in the hallway, Sam heads to the office, locks the door, and begins searching in peace. He eventually finds his belongings, but just as he does, his nose begins to bleed. Grabbing tissues, he sits down to rest. Exhausted, Sam falls asleep, unaware of the shouting and chaos erupting outside moments later. The next morning, Sam wakes, collects his things, and opens the door only to be horrified by the sight of a trashed apartment smeared with blood. Grabbing a random item to defend himself, Sam ventures outside the apartment and discovers the party guests, including his ex, have turned into zombies. As they try to attack him, Sam quickly slams the door shut. Looking out the window, he sees the same chaos everywhere. Most people have turned into zombies, and the few survivors are being chased down. Paris is in ruins, and a family attempting to flee in their car attracts a horde of zombies with their horn, resulting in their brutal end. Searching the abandoned jackets and bags left by the guests, Sam finds cell phones and listens to their desperate calls for help or final messages to loved ones. Once the hallway quiets down, he steps outside and climbs to the roof, but there's no sign of life or rescue. Determined to survive, Sam begins cleaning the apartment to rid it of the infected blood. Suddenly, he hears an unusual noise coming from the apartment below, followed by a gunshot that creates a hole in the floor. Looking through the hole, Sam discovers the neighbor below has taken his own life. Grabbing a metal bar, Sam widens the hole until it's big enough for him to climb through. After covering the old man's body with a blanket, Sam investigates further and realizes the initial sound he heard was the man shooting his infected wife before ending his own life. Sam searches the kitchen for food, takes the man's weapon, and gathers all the ammunition he can find. After ensuring the hallway is free of zombies, Sam cautiously steps out and heads downstairs, making sure to shut every door he passes. Upon reaching the front entrance, he spots zombies outside and quickly shuts the door just in time to keep them from getting in. With the building secure, Sam enters the caretaker's room, grabs the keys to all the apartments, and ignores the zombie clawing through the window. He finds a can of tuna and eats it right away. Sam collects all the supplies and useful items he can find in the room, then sorts the keys by apartment number so he can systematically check each one. The first apartment he explores contains a zombified family, and though one attacks him, he manages to fend it off after a brief struggle. He hurries out, locks the door behind him, and marks it with an X to avoid entering it again. Sam proceeds to check the other apartments, which, to his relief, are unoccupied. He collects whatever food he finds and occasionally grabs other items, like a paintball gun. As a musician, Sam is delighted to come across an MP3 player, some cassette tapes, and even a drum set. After finishing his search and wearing a mask to shield his face, Sam is startled when the elevator suddenly moves, revealing a zombie inside. Noticing that the zombie isn't acting aggressively, Sam decides not to harm it, but instead secures the elevator's iron gate with a belt to keep it contained. That evening, Sam enjoys his meal while listening to his old tapes, which bring back fond memories. The next day, he observes the zombies outside before organizing his gathered food, rationing it carefully, and recording everything in a notebook. Using the dirt on a window, he draws a grid to keep track of the passing days. Later, he resumes exploring the building and eventually plays the drums to blow off some steam. He remains cautious as the noise draws zombies toward the window. Days begin to blur together as Sam finds ways to stay occupied. He marks time on the window, cooks his meals, and occasionally spends evenings on the roof, gazing at the deserted city. For entertainment, he uses the paintball gun to shoot zombies on the street and crosses them off on old photos of his ex. Sam experiments with creating music by recording sounds he produces using random objects. One day, he notices a foul odor and checks the apartment below, discovering the bottles are starting to decompose. He carefully moves the bottles to the balcony, but can't bring himself to discard them like garbage. Instead, he places them in sleeping bags on their bed and arranges some of their personal belongings around them. After pausing for a moment of silence, Sam leaves the room and seals the door with tape to contain the smell. Later, when Sam tries to shower, the water unexpectedly stops flowing. That night, while lying in bed, he hears a strange noise and finds a group of zombies invading his room, ready to attack him. He screams in terror, only to wake up and realize it was just a bad dream. The following day, Sam adds exercise to his routine, jogging around the building while listening to music. When he passes by the elevator, he jokingly shakes the zombie's hand and decides to name him Alfred. Eventually, it rains, and Sam seizes the chance to collect water in various containers and wash himself. Sitting by the elevator, he smokes a cigar and talks to Alfred, sharing how the hardest part is not knowing what happened to his family. Later, while watching the street with his paintball gun, Sam is surprised to spot a cat roaming outside. He rushes downstairs, carefully checks for zombies, and opens a can of tuna to offer it to the cat hiding under a car. The cat hesitates, but starts to approach, drawn by the smell of food, until a sudden noise scares it away. Determined, Sam sets down his weapon, leaves the door open, and stealthily searches for the cat. Staying low behind parked cars, he tries to avoid detection, but a zombie notices him and begins to pursue. Sam quickly takes refuge inside a car, kicking the zombie away through the window, only to see another one approaching. Acting fast, he climbs into the back seat, escapes through the passenger door, and sprints back to the building, slamming the door shut behind him. Back in his apartment, Sam spots the cat calmly sitting near the zombies, and he decides to shoot it. Turning around, Sam notices a trail of blood on the floor and realizes that his leg has been injured by the zombie in the car. After cleaning the wound, he sits in front of a mirror, holding his weapon tightly. Although there are no visible signs of infection, he can't be certain he's safe, so he positions the weapon in case he needs to take drastic action. Exhausted, Sam falls asleep while sitting there, and the weapon accidentally fires a shot. Fortunately, the bullet misses him, and when he wakes up, he's relieved to see he hasn't changed, laughing with sheer joy. One day, while tending to the plants, Sam hears an unfamiliar sound and calls out, but no one responds. He peers through the window and spots someone in the building across the street, though he can't tell if it's a zombie or a person. Hoping for a better view, he heads to the roof, but there's no sign of anyone. With the temperature dropping, Sam returns to his apartment, builds a pillow fort, and lights a small fire to heat water for a warm bath. While trying to relax, he hears noises again, but they quickly fade away. Growing anxious about his dwindling food supply, Sam packs a bag and considers venturing outside for more provisions. Ultimately, his fear gets the better of him, and he decides against leaving. Overcome by loneliness, Sam begins drinking, and one afternoon, he shouts at Alfred, venting about how he hasn't seen zombies in days, and how they're both stuck in isolation. He spills some of his drink on Alfred, causing the elevator to shake as Alfred pushes against the door, which only fuels Sam's frustration. In a fit of rage, Sam hurls the bottle against the wall and storms back to his apartment. Desperation takes hold, and Sam starts playing the drums again, drawing zombies to his window as they claw to get in while he screams. Later, Sam apologizes to Alfred for everything he said in anger. As time passes, Sam, rationing his remaining food, listens to old recordings of his family. The memories overwhelm him, and he angrily sweeps everything off the table. That night, a sudden noise wakes Sam, and this time, he instinctively fires his weapon at the door. Looking through the hole he made, Sam is heartbroken to discover he's accidentally shot an ordinary woman instead of a zombie. Sam carefully carries her to the bed, immediately tending to her injuries and removing the bullet while pleading with her to hold on. As he steps out of the room, he notices her bag, which contains a rope and a hook. The next morning, while lost in sorrow, Sam is startled by a sound and discovers that she has survived. He offers her some pigeon soup, and she introduces herself as Sarah, explaining how she's been surviving by using her hook to leap between buildings. She mentions spotting a few other survivors in apartments, though most of them have lost their sanity. Zombies struggle with heights, but Sarah still avoids staying in one place for more than a week. Sam assures her that this building is secure, but Sarah remains cautious, pointing out that the gunshot from the previous night likely drew the zombies' attention, and eventually, they'll break down the door out of sheer persistence. Later on, during Sam's usual walk through the building, Sarah decides to join him. She grows uneasy when they pass Alfred, but Sam reassures her that Alfred would never harm either of them. Afterward, Sam resumes creating music and is thrilled when Sarah starts contributing to the process. That evening, Sam smokes while chatting with Alfred, reflecting on how having company might make survival easier. As their food supply dwindles to almost nothing, Sam realizes he must take bold action. Returning to the door marked with an X, he cuts a hole in it and methodically eliminates every zombie inside. With the room cleared, he gathers all the food he can find and brings it back. Upon returning to his apartment, Sam is puzzled to find Sarah missing. He searches the building and eventually finds her on the roof, seemingly planning her next move. Sarah wants to practice leaping to the building across the street, but Sam argues it's far too dangerous. She counters, insisting that staying put will either drive them insane or leave them defenseless when the zombies inevitably breach the door. Frustrated, Sarah storms off into the apartment. Sam follows, but when she remains silent, he begins piecing together the unsettling truth. Sarah never woke up while he was treating her injuries, and her presence has been nothing more than a figment of his imagination. When Sam steps into the room, he finds her lifeless form on the bed. He takes her hand and breaks down in tears. Afterward, he gently covers her with a sheet and places candles nearby as a final farewell. Searching through her bag again, he discovers a digital camera and begins scrolling through its photos. The images initially show Sarah with her family, but one photo of Sam on the roof confirms she had been the figure in the neighboring building. Realizing he is losing his grip on reality, Sam decides it's time to leave. He starts by burning all of his old tapes, then grabs Sarah's bag and heads to the roof to make his escape. Just before leaving, he remembers Alfred and chooses to set him free. Alfred doesn't act aggressively, but instead follows Sam, who guides him into an apartment. At that moment, the fire alarm is triggered by the burning tapes, drawing the zombies as they break through the front door in a frenzy. Sam fires at the approaching zombies, managing to take some down, but when they overpower him, he decides to flee rather than fight. With the elevator now accessible, Sam dashes inside, shuts the gate, and ignores the grasping hands trying to reach him. He begins climbing up the elevator shaft and runs into an empty apartment, but a zombie manages to follow him. Thinking quickly, Sam grabs some curtains and throws them over the zombie, distracting it momentarily. As he tries to sneak away, he accidentally knocks over some objects, alerting the zombie to his position. Reacting instantly, Sam strikes the zombie multiple times and uses a couch to pin it down, trapping it. He climbs on top of the couch and crawls through a hole to return to his apartment, now filled with thick smoke. The space is swarming with zombies, but the smoke helps Sam move through the room without being noticed. Finally, he reaches the roof and uses Sarah's hook to toss a rope across to the other building. A zombie closes in on him, so Sam leaps without hesitation, slamming into the opposite wall. After a few tense moments, Sam regains consciousness and feels relief at having made it. Spotting a zombie near the window, he climbs to the roof instead, taking in the sprawling cityscape. In the distance, faint noises catch his attention, sparking hope that there might still be other survivors out there.